think it's really important to just be at least aware enough to know that you cannot see them on your own. You can't. And we all do that. We all try to navigate that on our own. And I think it keeps people from having breakthroughs, right? You'll have a huge breakthrough if you lean in and work with somebody that you trust and you look up to. We're all here doing what we do for a reason. And it's okay to consistently lean in and go, I need your help because I don't have that expertise.
Well, it's false humility.
Yeah.
To be like, well, my problems are so insignificant. Okay. Sure. Maybe. But that's not the point.
Right.
The point is, can you be a better version of yourself if you address them? And will you then impact other people if you do?
Write that down.
That's the point.
That's the point.
Welcome to Processing Purpose, a business and lifestyle podcast committed to having honest conversations about the stuff in our lives that is often suppressed, ignored, or overlooked. We are two brothers from very different backgrounds, but with one common goal. From entrepreneurship to relationships, from hobbies to house projects, nothing is off limits as we process becoming the best version of ourselves in business and life. And on that note, we're back!
We're back! Love it. Glad to be back. Actually, It's been a hot minute. I know none of you know our rhythms, and you're probably like, who cares about any of this? But we've spent time together, a lot of time together, which has been amazing, but haven't been able to sit down and just process everything.
Well,
right?
yeah, it's been, we recorded the last episode with the brother-in-laws end of July.
End of July. Now we're at the end of August.
End of August.
Yep.
Yeah. So, a little bit of life has gone by since then, and
yep.
It's been good, though. Kids went back to school this week.
Back to school this week, back into rhythm. But we did, the time we spent together, we got awesome family time up at the lake in Idaho and just being together. And, man, it's just so life-giving, to see our kids grow up together and swim in the water together and paddle boat together and fish and everything else.
Yeah.
Just so life-giving. We feel really privileged to be able to do that together. I know a lot of families don't get that time and space together, and it really is a privilege to do that with you.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
It really has been a blessing.
Yep.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I think it's actually a pretty good segue talking about Priest Lake, because at Priest Lake, you had actually, I really appreciated it. You didn't pull me aside, but we kind of stepped to the side and had a conversation about just what was going on. And I remember you sharing, like, there's so much to be grateful for. And I'm not feeling it. I don't know what's going on. I just feel flat. And we've all been there. That's not unique. Yeah. I think everybody at some point, I always kind of think or joke that we always wish for a nice day, but how many nice days do we not maybe feel good on those days, right? Like our stomachs hurt or whatever else, and it kind of ruins that nice day. Well, it can happen on vacations too. It can happen everywhere. And then I saw you today, and you shared a very different outlook on life. And we're going to talk about breakthroughs today.
Breakthroughs. Yeah. I think that it's an interesting thing because you don't always know it's a breakthrough in the moment.
Right.
Sometimes you do. Right. Sometimes it's like
big,
an epiphany where it's like, whoa, I'd never had that lens, or I can't believe I had missed it this long, and you recognize immediately like, wow, that's a shift.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to look backwards and go, that's where it all changed.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to look maybe in the rearview mirror a little bit.
Sure.
Right? And we're going to go, all right, let's talk about what those breakthroughs were. Or maybe we even zoom out a little bit further and go, what's a breakthrough? Like, how do you define it for the purposes of this conversation? And then what often precedes a breakthrough, which is usually some sort of catastrophic explosion of some kind.
Hardship of some sort. Yeah, for sure. But I think we should start with what is a breakthrough, right? Okay. Because it can be big, it can be small, it can be a lot of things. And so for you, what do you consider a breakthrough?
I think a breakthrough for me is where a paradigm changes. Okay. Now, I don't know the Webster's definition of a paradigm, but I think of it in terms of like glasses that you're wearing.
Sure.
Right? And you see life through a certain lens, and all of a sudden those lenses get removed. Or maybe the lenses of correction get added. and you see it with clarity, right?
Sure.
So you could put it a few different ways, but it's the way you see things change. That's how I would define a breakthrough.
I like the clarity. Definition. Sometimes it's not about a big shift or change. Sometimes it's just focusing in on something that you didn't have focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm sure there are a variety of things that we could look back and talk on. Why don't you grab one or two and go, you know what, as I look back over let's go 20 years, because, anything that happens in your teenage years probably wasn't hugely significant, although for some people, certainly,
right.
It changes their life forever. Maybe I'm just projecting that it, nothing hugely significant in my teenage years. But what are some of those key moments for you that was like, yep, this is where everything I viewed changed? And what brought you to that moment? Like, was there a hardship that preceded it?
Man, that's a big question. I can certainly go back to, my time at Union Gospel Mission and a lot of epiphanies that came from that. But I want to give you guys a real time current one. And I want to talk about the bigger rock type epiphanies or moments in my life that totally shifted everything. So I'll get there. But a really recent one that's a little bit more tangible to me right now is surfing. And I know that sounds like, really? Like we just went surfing. It wasn't a big deal. I was so nervous.
Really?
To do it. I was really nervous and really
this
nervous.
Is wake surfing.
Wake surfing, yeah. Really nervous to embarrass myself. So I've said to myself, limiting belief, right? And that's, I think, a lot of times I would call breaking through something that's a limiting belief, typically. And not all limiting beliefs are bad, right? Some, I can't jump off this building and land a double backflip. So that's a good limiting belief that'll save my life, But nevertheless, I did, just due to not doing, what would you call them? Balance sports, maybe?
Sure.
Well, as a kid at all. So I remember rollerblading and just feeling and looking like an idiot. Like I don't know how to explain it. And I remember being teased for it. I remember just feeling like this is not my thing. Then I tried snowboarding, and I tried that. I remember somebody told me, you got to go at least 5 times. And on the 5th time I went, I literally remember saying, I'm not doing like I flipped and
this
fell
is not
and
my thing.
Spun down that hill or mountain every which way you could. And I just thought, no, this isn't my thing. Roller skating at the roller rink. I remember taking a group of kids out. I worked at a summer camp. This was back in like 2011. And we went to the roller rink. And as the parents came to pick the kids up, I didn't know what I was doing. So I remember one parent came in, hey, I'm here to get whatever. And I come cruising up, and I didn't know how to stop on my roller skates. So, around the roller rink, there's
walls.
an edge. And and not the wall, the edge where you have to jump, like step up on. And the front of the skates just slammed, and I just face planted and literally rolled over and looked up at the parent and was like, it was very embarrassing. So my point is those types of sports I've always been incredibly nervous to even do because I don't want to go through that again. I just feel like I've looked like an ass too many times and I don't want to do it again. But just getting up on the damn thing, that was a huge victory. And then getting to the point where finally, it took me about 37 times, but finally got to the point where I could actually ride the wave for a few seconds. And man, it was really like it makes me emotional to think about it. It's really life-giving. And so for me, that was a huge breakthrough, to say and for me personally, it's a huge self-esteem boost. It really is a big self-esteem boost. And I think for everybody going through a breakthrough or having that moment, that aha moment in their life, it's an esteem boost. You feel like you can and you will, and that's a good thing. That's the opposite of hopelessness, and that's a really powerful thing. So anyway, that's a current one. How about you?
So I think there were a few key like aha moments. I remember the first real business I started came on the heels of my ski career collapse. I was 18, 19, and I had just gone through 2 severe knee injuries in one season. And
those are long recoveries, correct?
The first one, the first one wasn't, because it was, to not get too specific, a ski edge had cut my knee, and so it was more soft tissue than anything else. So it just had to heal through that. But then, I tore my knee up the same season later in the year after I had recovered from that. And so it changed the trajectory that I was on at that time. And I decided to go into business instead of pursuing an Olympic career. And that was a hard decision. But I remember the first business I started, this stupid little internet business. And I remember the being 20 years old and making $5,000 in a month. And I was like, I'm going to be rich.
Well, that's at 20 years old. That's you're doing well, I would say.
Well, and that was 25 years ago too, right?
So equivalent to maybe 10 grand.
Yeah, I don't know what the number is, but not the same as 5,000 today. And I remember going, okay, maybe I can do this business thing. It was the first win that I had. And I had a lot of help to accomplish that win. It certainly wasn't on my own, but that was the first one, as I think back, where I was like, oh. I remember breakthroughs, a physical breakthrough too in skiing, where all of a sudden I went, oh, I could be good. And I was like 16, and the irony is that I started this conversation by saying nothing in your teenage years, and here I have talked about too.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat. There was an equipment change regulation in one of the seasons when I was 16, 17, and all of a sudden it all clicked, and I went, oh, I could be good. So I remember a couple of early breakthroughs that put some wins in my column and made me go, oh, okay. And there's been multiple along the way. Realizing that I'm good at problem solving was a huge light bulb moment. Selling my first company was a big one. Like, wow, I can create something that somebody else wants to buy. Interesting. That was a huge breakthrough moment.
Do you think the discipline you gained through your skiing career gave you the business acumen you have today? Meaning, or at least foundationally put you in that position?
I think any type of athletic pursuit requires discipline. Mm-hmm. And I think the skill set of discipline cannot be overrated. Like, it's paramount.
Yeah, it's a virtue for sure.
Yeah, it's being able to do something over and over and over when you don't feel like it, when you don't feel like you're getting ahead, when you're not winning, but this is what you committed to, and doing it anyways. Well, that's life if you want to be successful.
Right.
And so, I think it was probably founded during those years of my athletic pursuit. I'm not sure I would have framed it that way, but I'm sure that's where it, getting pushed. And some of that, to be fair, wasn't because I was pushing myself. Some of that was my parents going, you committed to this, so go.
Yeah.
And being like, fine.
Yeah. And that's a great life lesson, though, because a lot of people, think that you have to have this unbridled enthusiasm every single day to do what you're doing and get up and get after it. No, you need nudges. You need motivation, right? I just shared the Zig Ziglar, right? That a lot of people say motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. So we suggest it daily.
Sure.
Kind of a thing. And I also really appreciated, back to the discipline thing, what Charlie Munger said about delayed gratification, right? He said you should always aim for delayed gratification, but first you need to convince yourself that's the way you want it.
Yeah.
Right.
We should do an episode on delayed gratification. That's an interesting topic.
We should.
In and of itself, because it's lost today.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that next time.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think my biggest life view altering change, I'm going to out myself here. I'm not sure I've done that on this podcast yet, but we're going to do it.
That can mean so many things, by the way.
Right? Here we go. Buckle up. I think my biggest one is when I decided to come to grips with my addiction. And this was, between 12 and 14 years ago, probably now. And I decided to come face to face with pornography addiction.
Yeah.
And, the sticky thing, we don't need to dive into that necessarily in and of itself, although maybe worth talking about at some point. But, it's one of those things that every guy I know deals with pornography on some level.
Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be watching an internet video. It could be subtle. It could be sneaky. It could be all those things.
Yeah. And so I didn't really realize the effect that it was, the secondary effects that it was having with my family, my wife, my relationships. And I got to a point where I just finally said, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with feeling guilty about it. I'm done with trying to not do it. I'm done with, the repercussions of what that guilt does in my relationships and my friendships. And I decided to make a change. And while that was the moment where I decided to start getting help, everything else that comes along with more personal alignment started to make a difference. I started to be more confident in myself because I was doing what I said I was going to do. I started to interact with people differently. I started to have more grace for people because I had more grace for myself. That was probably the biggest shift for me that I can think of, to be honest.
But what preceded it was hard. It was not like you got still enjoying years of relief after the fact, but getting to the point where you have to surrender that.
Yeah.
And to your point is breakthroughs aren't always big positive ahas. Right. I'd argue that the biggest breakthroughs in most people's lives are the moments you say, I need help.
Yeah.
Like, and not in maybe not in a desperate way,
Sure.
but just saying, I can't. We're not meant to do this on our own. We're not designed to do this on our own. We're social creatures. We're designed to lean in and do things together as a community. And so I think that's a really important distinction that breakthroughs are asking for help sometimes.
It certainly was for me. It was getting to a place where it was like, I don't know what else to do. And I'm not able to not do this. Mm-hmm. I've tried all the things. Got all the softwares. I've, got the accountabilities. I've done all those things. I don't know what else to do. And so I went and physically got counseling, got help. And that put me on a path of just overhauling myself. And while it started with, let's get this area of my life cleaned up that's not in alignment, Charlie was my therapist, my counselor at that time. I call him my head coach because I hate the term therapist.
It has a negative connotation.
But we went far beyond. We went into performance, and he really helped move the needle for me as I changed the way I interacted with the world around me.
Right.
And I think I know I'm a much better version of myself today. My relationships are healthier. My ability to be empathetic may not even have existed before, to be honest. Right. And it is there now.
Right.
Probably still has a lot to be developed, but it's I'm a far cry from where I was before. So I think that's probably the single greatest breakthrough. And it really isn't the fact that I've overcome a pornography addiction that is the breakthrough. That was really kind of the moment where it shifted. The breakthrough really came over 10 years of being in counseling and efforting to level up myself.
So it was a process, not an overnight aha. It was like I'm breaking through with intention.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a very intentional pursuit. It's like, okay, I got to get this. I need to change this aspect, this box of my life. But then as you start unpacking that, you realize, well, why am I behaving in this way? Mm-hmm. Well, let's now deal with that piece because that needs to be dealt with. And well, why'd that happen? Oh, well, let's deal with that piece. And it kind of you end up going through all these different layers of everything from your relationship with your parents to interactions you had with, influential people in your life that swayed you one way or the other, to like you go in all these different areas that may have started in this one little area. But yeah, I hope I'm a better friend today. I know I am.
For sure.
A better friend, a better father, a significantly better husband, better son, employer, all the different things that we are. I'm a better version of myself because I took the time to go and get myself better.
Yeah. And, addictions for the most part, whether it be whatever it is, whether it be substance abuse or anything else, they're symptoms to the bigger problem, right? And,
yeah.
and
it's a coping.
Yeah, it is. It's a coping mechanism. And I have to wonder if a lot of our problems or perceived problems come from our blind spots, right? Come from the fact that they're unknown and uncertain and we just don't know how to navigate them. And I guess my point there is somebody like Charlie, a coach, anybody else in your life, a mentor, that can speak to your blind spots.
Yeah.
That can call them out really in a healthy way, right? I mean, you can make someone feel pretty crappy about it, but
sure. They got to be ready
for it and in a helpful way, helping you move through it and create maybe some processes around those things to ensure that, they don't ruin things for you or get in the way. I think it's really important to just be at least aware enough to know that you cannot see them on your own without someone else looking in and helping you understand what's going on. You can't. And we all do that. We all try to navigate that on our own. And I think it keeps people from having breakthroughs, right? You'll have a huge breakthrough if you lean in and work with somebody that you trust and you look up to that can help you navigate it. I really believe that. And if you haven't done that yet, do it now.
Yeah, I think that's actually maybe the highlighting the bold and the underline of this conversation. Like we can have, and breakthroughs do come about on our own accord sometimes. Yeah. I would be curious to know what the statistic is, but I bet you it's way in favor, though, that it's done through the help of somebody else.
Yeah.
Counseling, therapy, psychiatrist, like whatever it is, depending on the level of breakthrough that you're seeking to have, go get help.
Yeah.
Like, if we could change the stigma of going to counseling.
Or just help in general. Like you're stronger with help, you're weaker without it. Period.
We all have to have coaches.
Yeah.
Like you want to break through in the gym, you get a personal trainer. You want to break through on the basketball court, you're going to have a coach,
Mm-hmm.
You want to break through on business, coach.
Yep.
You're not going to do it on your own. You're just, yes. And like I said, I'm sure there's exceptions, but you put the odds in your favor. Like if you're at a place where you're like, I'm just stuck and I can't get through this. Something's preventing me from getting through this. I know I should be able to. I can see that it's in my way. I've tried to get through it. Or you can't even articulate that. You're like, I'm just stuck. Get some help.
Yeah. And back to the design conversation. We're not designed to do it alone.
No.
There are certain things that I think, self-navigation and learning how to problem solve on your own in certain circumstances. Yeah, really empowering and really, really important. But more times than not, we're just not designed for it. We're designed to have others around us cheering us on, correcting us as we go. That's another big one that I think some people really misconceive, that correction is what's the word I'm looking for? Is harsh. It's not. It's love. Right?
Yeah,
it is. When someone's trying to make you better, they're loving you. They're not hurting you, right? Yeah. And we've got to shift that perspective a little bit too.
Yeah,
I think. Let's unpack why we even brought this topic up today. What's currently going on in your world that's made you feel like there's been some ahas, there's been some breakthroughs?
Yeah. So, ironically, I was listening to our last episode that had come out. So not the one that we just recorded, but the one previous, which was the push-pull.
Right.
Like the things that motivate us. Are you motivated by fear, or are you motivated by pleasure, right? And I listened back to all the episodes just to, one, inform what we talk about next time or whatever. But I was listening to it back, and I made the comment that, and I don't remember if you asked me, but I made the comment that I had done the best with what I had been given. Something to that context, about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through that episode. And the way I was talking about it in that conversation was, the opportunities that have been put in front of me, the ideas that I've had, the privileges that I've been blessed with. Like, I do feel that I have maximized those opportunities to the best of my knowledge. Now, could I have done better? We all could have done better. We could have all practiced more. We could have all taken more free throws. You can always do more. And the challenge for me is that I look back at those things and go, well, I didn't do the best I could because I could have always done more. But if you could always do more, there's no way to look back and go, I 100%ed it. Okay? Because you could always do more.
Life's a counterbalance. You can't give 10 or 100% in every category. You just can't.
But I look back and I genuinely went, no, I really did. I have done the best with what has been put in front of me. And some things have gone my way and some things haven't. And some things are in my control and some things aren't. And as I said this and had this conversation with you in that episode, and I'm listening to it back, all of a sudden, it was like I was hearing it for the first time. Even though I had said it, it was like I was hearing it for the first time. And all of the shoulding that I've done in my life, gosh, I should be further than I am. Gosh, I really should have made more of that opportunity. Yeah, I really thought I should be further. I should be making more. I should have more impact. And we say maybe it's a projection. I say these things often in my head. I have these feelings like, man, I'm coming up short. And I think that in some way informs some of the conversations that we've had previously about not feeling successful.
Sure.
It goes together. I'm not sure it's exactly the same, but it's definitely adjacent if it's not the same. Like feeling like, yeah, I should have done better. And as I listen to myself say these things of like, no, I feel like I maximized what it was that I had the opportunities to do there. It was like this weight fell off all of a sudden of like, well, if you do believe that,
yeah, they're conflicting.
Then you are exactly where you should be.
Mm-hmm.
Not you should have had all these things. You should have more. You should have done more. Should have more impact. You're exactly where you should be. So be confident in that because you're crushing it. Like, and this is stupid to say on some level, like, yeah, I'm crushing it. But for me on the inside, to come to a place where instead of being hard on myself of like, man, I really feel like I could have been further, should have been further, but to go, hey, you did pretty good with everything that you've been given. And there'll be more opportunities that will allow you to take another level. And if not, you're still doing the best with what's in front of you right now. There was like relief that came with that. It was an element of like, it was like kind of almost washed over me.
Yeah.
And I've gone back to it, not listening to it, but that like replaying that in my head. Anytime I'm like, oh man, and I've gotten uptight. And what that episode came out a week and a half ago is all from when we're recording this. And multiple times since then where I've felt like, oh, I got back into the shoulds, I went back to that and went, no, remember just an episode ago, you said that you had maximized everything to what had been given to you. So should you have? Should you be further? No. And it all of a sudden was okay.
I think you experienced gratitude. You had shared with me based on what you're saying, you shared with me months ago. You said, Gavin, I intellectually understand gratitude.
Yep.
Like I know it. I can think through it. I look around and I go, I'm grateful. I get it. But the feeling, that overwhelming, that epiphany, that aha, that breakthrough, so to speak, I think it's gratitude. I think it's a place of like, not acceptance. It's a place of pure contentment born from satisfaction and appreciation for the accomplishments you've made.
Yeah.
You know, and not necessarily resting in it, but just saying, I'm good with this. This is good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it to be fair, it doesn't take anything away from
Right.
what I want to do.
Right.
Which I think was always a fear
Sure.
of mine. Like, gosh, if I become content with what I have, it's going to take my edge, my
Sure.
motivation from moving forward. But it's different. It feels different.
Right.
It's a recognition and an acceptance of what has come before this moment.
Do you think in some ways you're redefining what progress is?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Because when you say I should have done this, you're basing it off of what you believed progress to be then.
right.
But now it's because contentment's the enemy of progress, right? We heard that in The Greatest Showman. It's a great quote, but it can be a little damaging, right? If you think about it too on the surface. But if you dig into that a little bit, you go, okay, well, what is progress?
Yeah.
You know, what is that for you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, maybe it's redefining progress. I think I'm still processing, like, okay, I heard it. I receive it.
Sure.
Now what?
Right.
What do I,
Right.
does anything change? And I think the reality is I'm not sure my behavior that much changes. I just think my peace changes a little bit, which
What a
cannot
gift.
be.
What a gift.
Cannot be overstated there. Like that's a significant
Yeah.
upside. But yeah, it feels good. And I feel like I'm going to have to revisit it probably frequently until it really permeates
Right.
like a belief system. Like I think it's an awareness right now. I'm not sure it's a belief just yet.
What does that look like? What kind of system do you think can be created or habit can be created to really sink that in?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to have to be a couple of things. One is it has to be you have to use it as a trigger, like when you're feeling less than or like that you're coming up short in some way, you know, through the lens of what we're talking about for me, right? You got to use that as a trigger and go, okay, let's go back to the beginning here. What do I truly believe to be true?
Right.
Not what does this moment make me feel like is true.
Right. Right.
And then the other thing is that I immediately updated. I have a morning affirmation.
Oh, nice.
It's a gratitude affirmation for me to kind of steep in the you've won the lottery, man. Like,
Yeah.
wrap your head around that. And so I updated it though to reference that moment of like, you have done the best with what you've been given. So that's a part of it now, to just continue to reinforce that. So that those will be the practical things that I will do. I'll use the negative emotion as a trigger, and then the morning affirmation in addition to, you know, taking my mind and putting it on the positive in those trigger moments, to reinforce and try and create a belief system now around a potentially life-changing, epiphany for me. I don't know if it's that big, but it certainly makes me feel different in this moment.
Totally.
So yeah.
One thing that keeps replaying in my head over and over, and maybe it resonates, maybe it doesn't, is don't wait to be grateful.
Yeah.
It's just a great check to realize that, man, don't be the person that loses something big in your life, a relationship or anything else, and just look back and go, man, I should have been grateful for what I had, and it's not too late. You can look around and be extremely grateful for everything you have right now. You're right. It's easier said than done sometimes. Sometimes you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and you're not feeling your best. And, but to check in and realize, be at least self-aware that you can pull yourself back in, and back to the needing help. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but relationships are the handlebars of life.
Yeah.
Your therapist, whoever it is, your friend, being able to be vulnerable with that person and be able to speak to your blind spots, it will pull you back into existence more times than not in a more powerful way.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I want to thank you for meeting me here, right? Like part of this, we've talked about our reason for doing this. Part of this is, for posterity. Part of it's for just making sure that you and I connect well and stay in tune. But iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. It really does.
And it felt like an iron sharpening iron moment for me. So thank you for being that backstop to just have the conversation and say something out loud that was obviously in me. And I didn't even realize when I said it, but when I heard it back, I went, whoa, do I really believe that?
Yeah.
And then as I sat with it, I went, yeah, I do believe that. So what does that mean now?
Yeah. I think it's easy to assume our kids have breakthroughs all the time because their brains are learning new things.
Sure.
And they are. But I have not. I can't consciously say that I've checked in with my kids to find out how they feel about those breakthroughs or what breakthroughs they're going through or experiencing in their life. What does that look like for you as a dad, as a parent?
I think that we are that third party, that additional third party. We're that reinforcing voice.
Sure.
Of what I say is go get help, go get coaching, go get counseling.
Right. You are the coach. You are the
we
counselor.
are that for our kids. So I think it may not be as obvious all the time, although when you watch your kids have breakthroughs, it's a rush. Like when you watch your kid get outside the wake on a surfboard for the first time, right? Or when they tackle the fear of the black diamond, ski run,
Did they do that?
Oh yeah.
Did Van do it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Both Van and Nora can ski black diamonds. Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Van can, he's 11 and he'll hike peaks with me and ski anything on the mountain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's fun. But when you watch them kind of take down those milestones, and overcome the self-limiting beliefs where they didn't know it was possible. That's really, really cool. And I think that we can facilitate that by being a mirror, by having those conversations, by asking questions. God, that really bothered you today. Tell me why. Right. And forcing them to be introspective.
Yeah.
Wow. That you got really emotional over that. What was that about?
Right.
Talk to me about that. I can see that really pumped you up. Why? What made you so enthusiastic about that? Because sometimes we don't realize what those breakthroughs are. Right. And they might be experiencing it, and we see the emotion of it. We see the emotion of either the win, or we see the emotion of the stuckness of self-doubt. But it's classic. Kind of therapy 101 is the answer's inside of them. You just have to ask the questions. Right. And just asking questions that forces them to think about it. Yeah.
In new, bigger ways. Like you said before, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. Being a parent is its own challenge in so many ways and has its own breakthroughs in so many ways. How do you feel about being a dad right now? Do you think you're a good dad?
I freaking love it. I do. I'm having so much fun. As somebody who is very trepid about being a dad, I tried to prolong it.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't overly enthusiastic about it. I forced enthusiasm when we got pregnant.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to be excited about this because this is happening.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yep. Almost like dissonance in a way. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to convince myself that this is what we're doing. Yep.
But it has been an absolute blast.
Yeah.
It has been so fun and is so fun to just be a part of all of those moments and to find ways to help them and to find ways to just be there. And it's so rewarding. It's so fulfilling. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know people without kids probably looking at people with kids and think, how in the hell do you guys do that? You know, like, geez, it's a lot. And it is for sure. Like I shared with you this morning that I'm constantly exhausted, pretty consistent. Like even waking up this morning, I was like, I need like 8 more hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Sheesh. But I'd agree with you. It's giving me every ounce of purpose that I have. I mean, if you want to sit here and process purpose, that is it. I often say that our purpose is their future.
Yeah.
And I feel that way. And I think unless you become a parent, or even a mentor, you know, I'm not saying all parents have to be biological parents. It could be a brother, a mentor, an uncle, whatever you are in that kid's life. When you're breathing life into a kid, more times than not, they're actually breathing more life into you. That is a connection and an opportunity for humans to grow that you can't redesign any other way. And so I know for a fact I'm a better person because of my kids. I hope they're better people because of me. We'll see.
Oh, God. You know they are.
But it's, you know, it's the one thing I'm challenged with right now as a dad, you know, and even considering the topic of breakthrough and contentment and all that kind of stuff is just, sounds selfish, but making sure that I'm filling my cup enough to where I can still pour out enough for them. That's what I'm bumping up against a lot, where that exhaustion is.
Moms, listen up.
Yeah. And yes, very much so. That, you know, more often than not, your cup is more empty than you think. And I love everyone that pours their hearts out to their kids, but we need to fill that cup up on a regular basis. And motivation might be it. Zig Ziglar's a funny guy, but motivation on a daily basis might be it. But maybe that's meditation. Maybe it's a walk every morning. Maybe it could be anything. But I'm realizing that the breakthrough I need right now is prioritizing just a little bit of time for myself every day, and not just plowing through the day. I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. Well, that just never happens.
Yeah.
It just never comes. And then you get to the point where your cup's not full. You get home, or I get home, and I have nothing left to give.
You cannot give what you do not have.
Yeah. And I remember asking Norris Williams, if you're listening in, love you, man. An incredible mentor, an incredible man. But I remember asking him when I was early in my marriage and as a father, what's the greatest advice you can give? And he said, save some. You know, always save some. Never run your cup out. You need to save some for your family. Right. And that was really good advice. And I need to exercise it.
So what's the practicality of that? What are some of the things that you can start doing, start rearranging, start scheduling? Like, what do you need to do then if you're becoming aware that maybe you're not giving yourself enough attention? And maybe you've made those shifts. If so, what are those? But what do you need to start implementing? That's
a great question, and I've said it a few times. I just haven't had the discipline to do it. Is, you know, carving out like 12 to noon or 11 to 1 or noon to 2 every day, right? I can get back to work easily. It's not a problem for me, right? I know some people, once they're off work, they can't get back into it. I can get back into it. As an entrepreneur, you're working at 9 p.m. I took 2 calls at 9:30 last night, right? Like, it just is what it is. But I remember reading a book, and it was about executive and his assistant. And she carved out 2 hours a day in the middle of his day because she realized he needed that. Like, he needed to fill his cup up, go for a walk, go grab lunch with a friend. And the thing that was cool about the way they did it, and I think the reason I've not done it yet is because I specifically try to fill that gap with something, is they keep it open. Like that gap is open. You can work out, you can go for a walk, you can have lunch, you can do whatever you want with that day. That is your 2 hours. No one's taking that away from you, you know? And so I just need to leave that gap open and just say, that's my time. 12, whatever I choose. I don't know what time it is, but
12 to 2 is blocked out on my calendar 5 days a week. It is not possible for a meeting to get scheduled unless I allow it. It is not possible for anything to fill my 12 to 2 slot 5 days a week.
Does it alleviate just daily pressure doing that? Do you find that it helps a lot?
Well, I know that I've got an out. Like,
Sure.
regardless of how hectic my morning is, I know that come noon, like, even if I have other things that I'm choosing to give energy to, like, I don't have other meetings. I have nothing else that I'm going to be accountable to outside of things that I have chosen to put in there, which for me is the gym. I go to the gym or I go for a mountain bike ride 3 of the 5 days. And so I'm in the gym too, and I usually have some sort of outdoor, usually mountain biking this time of year on one of the days. And I'm accountable to that because I need the accountability to do it.
Right.
So I have chosen that accountability for a discipline reason, because otherwise I won't go to the gym on my own.
Right.
I'm
Find a lot of reasons not to.
Yeah, I won't. And so I have accountability for that. But 12 to 2 every day, I leave my office and go to the gym, go work out. Even if it's just I go and I grab lunch and I pull up Netflix and I watch 30 minutes of a show. Like, I change the channel.
Right.
And like turn it off.
Right.
For a little bit.
Right.
And then jump back in and resume. Like you, I don't have any problems getting back into the rhythm of things.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I do. 12 to 2 every day is manually blocked off on my calendar.
And I know for sure I need to work in, thanks for letting me process all this, by the way. But I need to work in time in nature. That's really big for me. Every time I'm in the wilderness, it just feeds my soul. It does. And so I can get a little bit out on a daily basis. I think it can only be a positive thing. I don't see how that could be a negative thing. So hold me accountable to that.
Okay.
Please.
What else? What other, unless you were going somewhere else.
No.
What other significant, life-altering, if appropriate, like moments, paradigm shifts have you had as you look backwards?
For me, I'm going to anchor all of them in the moments I realized I needed help.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's it for me. So, I go back to, I could start even back in childhood, but let's just start with the Union Gospel Mission because you guys know about that. My breakthrough was looking in the mirror and seeing myself. At this point, I was probably 30 pounds lighter than I am now. So pretty thin, sucked up, cheeks are sucked up. And I remember looking in the mirror and I remember thinking to myself, specifically, verbatim, if you do not get help, you will die. Because I knew in my mind, I deduced that I'm smart enough to figure out how to not go to jail. I'll figure out how to sidestep that one. I didn't feel any sort of insanity creeping in, so I knew I wasn't going to an insane asylum. The only other option with addiction is death. And so I'm like, if you don't get this figured out, you're going to die. And at that point...
And this was a drug addiction.
It was a drug addiction. At that point, it turned into polyuse. And polyuse is basically grabbing any drug you can get your hands on. So at that point, I was addicted to, a lot of different stuff. Opiates, meth. There was also a lot of like muscle relaxer, paralytic type stuff I was getting into. It was getting bad fast. And so, and I was pawning off my stuff pretty quickly. So I was pawning off my TV, convinced myself I didn't need furniture anymore, right? What do you need a couch for? Drugs are better. And so it got to the point where everything under the sun was becoming really unhealthy and really irrational really fast. So that breakthrough, right? That big epiphany of like, you have two choices here. It's either go get help or die. I mean, there's no in between. And it would take time to get there, but it didn't matter. I knew that was what needed to happen. So that, I think, more than anything, it allowed enough humility to seep into my bones to where I'm okay asking for help all the time now. I don't shy away from asking for help ever. Like there are things like, that we're all anal retentive about that I'm like, I'll just do it myself because I just want to organize a certain way or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about bigger life stuff, right? Like accountability partners and therapists and coaches and my wife and anybody else that I can lean into and say, I'm not strong enough to do this by myself. And again, back to I've come to the conclusion we're not designed to in a lot of ways. Yeah, there are moments where you got to toughen up and you just got to get after it and you can't be, the victim of your own circumstances. But having someone's shoulder to shoulder with you to prop you up, someone behind you to push you forward and someone in front of you to lead you in the right direction, all important. And so when I look back at all in business, I mean, I could go to business. The moment I found Steph and brought her into my world, everything got better. Everything got easier. Everything got more clear, right? Now I can see a vision that makes sense because I have somebody that can do the things I'm not good at. So all of my breakthroughs, and I hope the rest of my breakthroughs, are when I am strong enough to ask for help.
Yeah. Why? I don't know if there's an answer. Why don't we ask for help?
Pride. Right? Pride in the Bible even talks about God hating pride.
Yeah.
Because this is what happens. We talk about ego, right? Edging God out. And it does. Pride and ego are kind of the same. I always like to say there's a lot of people out there with big egos and no self-esteem, right?
Ego is the personification of pride, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And it totally gets in the way of community. It gets in the way of love and support and accountability and everything else. Isolation's so dangerous, right? We think that, look at me and puff your chest and I can do it all on my own. Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about it. There's no such thing as a self-made person. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
Someone that tells you that is full of shit and they're a narcissist and they're unwilling to give credit to anybody who's given them help. That person had a ton of help all along the way. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we even look at here locally, Rob, right? And he would sit down and tell you, no, like my daughter and everybody else that's helped us build this local family business. It's a huge effort. It takes a lot of people to do. And so anyway, I'm just hopeful that as I continue to grow and mature as a human being, that I'm more willing to not ask how, but who.
Do you think as a society, we are becoming more open to asking for help? Do you see that as a trend at all, or do you feel like, no, it's going the other way?
It's kind of pendulum swinging. I think we went through that. I think COVID opened the door for people to honestly and openly talk about mental health, and but like anything else, the pendulum swings hard, and that ends up getting abused and turns into a really generalized. It's like affordable housing. Turns into a really generalized term that nobody really has specificity on. And what does it actually mean? Are you going through a mental health crisis? Are you just being a little whiny bitch? Like, what are we dealing with here? And I know that sounds harsh, but I think that's where we're at. I think people are just less tolerant right now. And that has not bounced back, I don't think.
Yeah. Right.
We've seen a lot of things pendulum swing with COVID and then start to swing back. Tolerance has not come back.
Mm-mm.
People are still real, including myself, are still very intolerant of dumb crap and bad behavior and irrational thoughts. And, as the saying goes, that I think Jordan Peterson said it, highly intelligent people are being silenced so dumb people won't be offended. Right? I mean, that's kind of what's going on right now. And so, anyway, I kind of really rabbit trailed there, but yeah, I think we are. I think people are willing to open the conversation. BetterHelp is a great tool and resource. I don't know if anybody has ever navigated that, but it's an awesome online tool for you to go get therapy online, answer a few questions, and get paired up with someone immediately. So there's awesome resources now that have been born because of it.
Sure.
But I think, like transgender and many other topics that became very popular over COVID, I think they're dealing with being ostracized, and they're dealing with it going the other direction. And I think it's happening with mental health too. And those two topics are actually kind of paired together a little bit in some ways, but it's I think it's all kind of going back the other way a little bit right now. And so I'm hopeful, especially with people that truly need help, that it doesn't prevent them from getting it because they're afraid their community is going to,
think less of them.
Yeah.
Judge them.
Yep. And it's really too bad because it can really help people in a big way. Actually, I talked to, obviously keep it general, but I talked to a friend that I helped get them on this track. And they made the comment like, why would any of these therapists care about my stupid little problems? Like my problems are nothing compared to other people's problems. And so my comment to that was, well, just think about it this way. These people have gone through 8 years of training, possibly 6 to 8 years of training, right, to get their master's or doctorate. They've dedicated years, more times than not, years of their lives in this profession, in this discipline, to truly help people and bless people in big ways. Yeah, there are some bad ones out there. They're like doctors and realtors and everything else. Get rid of the bad ones, go find the good ones. But I said, you are depriving those people of doing what they do best, right? You're not giving them the opportunity to bless our community in the way they've trained themselves for years to do. And so I think putting it into that perspective, it just makes me realize that, we're all here doing what we do for a reason. And it's okay to consistently lean in and go, I need your help because I don't have that expertise.
Well, it's false humility.
Yeah.
To be like, my problems are so insignificant. Okay. Sure. Maybe. But that's not the point.
Right.
The point is, can you be a better version of yourself if you address them? And will you then impact other people if you do?
Write that down.
That's the point.
That's the point. Yeah. That's a great conclusion. It really is. Man, I'm really grateful we talked about all this today.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful you had your breakthrough.
It feels real good. I've been processing it over the last week and just going, is this true? Like, does this resonate with my common sense?
Right.
And as I've kind of let it just steep, it's been like, okay, like there's something there. I'm going to lean into this a little bit more and continue to take it, I don't know, assimilate it. I don't know the right word there.
And maybe even let the statement absorb in.
Yeah.
What a successful family.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you're perceived.
Yeah.
And it's so life-giving for me to see you really accept that and receive it and believe it.
Yeah.
It's pretty rad.
Yeah. Well, I'm on a path to believing it.
To enlightenment. He's the next Buddha.
Yes. Yes. Come one, come all.
And on that note.
But no, thank you.
Yeah.
This has been good to talk about. Getting help is a catalyst to breakthroughs.
Yep.
And I encourage everybody.
Yeah.
I honestly do. Every time I'm talking with somebody that's like got something going on, I'm like, yeah, you should talk to somebody about that.
Yeah.
So you should talk to somebody about that.
Totally.
Go do it.
And the last thing I'd say is those people want to help. Like
They do.
That's the bigger.
They've given their life to it.
Big time. And even if they haven't, if it's a friend or someone else you just need to lean into for the moment, they want to help.
Yeah.
Like these people are in your life to help you. They didn't sign up to not. And so use it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So good.
Okay.
Thanks, brother.
Love you, dude.
Love you.
We out.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to Processing Purpose. We hope you grabbed a few gold nuggets to take one step forward in your journey of life and business. Please remember to like and subscribe our channel if you'd like to get more content to help you build and grow everything around you. Make today your best day. Today is day one.